Welcome once again to Take 5, an inventory series, where we are transmitting the healthcare news of the day through a medium that is completely free of viruses, the internet. I'm Alex Diamond, and despite the fact that there is no strong indication that we're done with the first wave, I asked supply chain pro Carl Nattenstedt how prepared hospitals are for a second wave to hit in this coronavirus crisis.
If we do have a significant spike in demand due to a second wave of the pandemic, I think we've got a lot of things going for us that will hopefully not make it nearly as much of an emergency as it was on the first spike. So well-run health systems are creating somewhat of a threefold or three-tiered response to a future pandemic. And those three things are very simple. One is they are building a backstock. So they are building a buffer stock or a pandemic supply stock that they're storing somewhere, whether it be in their warehouses, directly at their hospitals, perhaps with a 3PL vendor, they're building some buffer. The second thing most of them are doing is they are adding some amount of regular volume with non-traditional suppliers. So in the past, they might have been willing to have all of their supply stock move through their primary distributor. And now they're saying, let's buy some of our volume from non-traditional suppliers who hopefully and theoretically might be able to react more quickly to a future pandemic. So they're kind of strengthening the resiliency of their supply chain by having multiple suppliers for the product. The third thing a lot of them are doing is looking for some domestic supply, or at a minimum, supply that comes from a variety of countries. So don't just rely on supplies from China, but perhaps have domestic suppliers or maybe suppliers in, say, South America that could scale up and fulfill if there was a pandemic that shut down manufacturing in China again. So I think that threefold strategy is something that most of my health system clients are trying to implement in various different degrees. The supply chain and the supply channel has started to level off to some degree and is getting more stable. So we're seeing offshore supply is beginning to be more responsive to demand, less knee-jerk. There's less underhanded tactics happening in the supply channel. People are kind of beginning to operate more like they did prior to the pandemic. So I think that, as more suppliers come online, as more supplies have been, shipped to the U.S. in order to meet kind of the first round of emergent demand, we're just seeing the channel start to stabilize. And so prices are coming down, delivery times are more reliable, people are getting more buffer in their system, so it's not quite as emergency as it was, say, on March 15th. And that's a good thing. As non-traditional suppliers are sort of dropping out of the market, the more traditional suppliers are all talking about ways to increase their manufacturing capacity. I saw the CEO of Owens & Minor, which owns Halyard, for example, speaking from the White House, and he was talking about all the things that Halyard is doing to increase capacity for manufacturing, to be more flexible and responsive should there be a future spike in the demand curve. So I think the traditional suppliers, I don't want to say we got historically complacent, because I don't really think that's what happened, but they just never anticipated such a dramatic spike in PPE demand to occur. And so they didn't really have that baked into their kind of manufacturing capacity plan. So now that we've seen it, we all kind of think it has a chance to come back again. All of those traditional suppliers are trying to respond. So I think the second time around will be better, just like the second time around of caring for a spike in patients in hospitals will probably be better. The supply chain is better as well. So we've learned from some of our mistakes and challenges, and I think we've implemented some things, and we're really moving in a better direction. That's not to say there won't be some challenging times and perhaps some hiccups, but I just think it'll be less dramatic and less drastic than it was in March and February.
That's all the time we had this week. Come back next week when we talk to Carl again, hopefully about coordinating with employees during a time of great change. Take 5 is a production of Z5 Inventory. To see all of our sources and resources, go to z5inventory.com. That's the letter Z, the number 5, and the word inventory.com.